This episode is brought to you by DistroKid.
I'm Victoria Cash. Thanks for calling the Lucky Land Hotline. If you feel like you do the same thing every day, press 1. If you're ready to have some serious fun for the chance to redeem some serious prizes, press 2. We heard you loud and clear. So go to LuckyLandSlots.com right now and play over 100 social casino-style games for free. Get lucky today at LuckyLandSlots.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey everyone, today's guest is Aaron Bruno, lead vocalist for the Los Angeles, California rock band AWOLNATION. Together we pull back the curtains and dissect the writing, recording, and inspiration behind the mega smash hit, Sail, taken from their 2011 debut album, Megalithic Symphony. Wow, what a song. And another wow for the inspiration behind the track. You know I love a great feel-good story here, a lesson in perseverance, and that's exactly what Sail is all about. Having tasted small doses of success with other musical projects, Aaron bared his soul and laid out what was going on personally and emotionally with him during this time. He was down to his last dollars, wondering whether it was time to pack it all in and let go of the dream. And wouldn't you know it, while Aaron was at his lowest point, his rock bottom, a series of events happened that forever changed the course of his life and career. Aaron produced the song along with engineer Kenny Carkeet, and according to Aaron, there were no rules. He did the whole record completely on his own terms. So great. And Google actually spit out the wrong lyric to me that I read back to Aaron, which he actually thinks is better than what ended up in the song. I guess there's a first time for everything. So sit back and relax. This story's awesome.
Hey, have you heard? Krista makes a podcast. Hey, have you heard? Krista makes a podcast. Hey, have you heard? Krista makes a podcast. Hey, have you heard? Krista makes a podcast.
Aaron, how we doing?
Great. I came in a little hot with that answer. I apologize. I'm not used to having such a nice professional mic. Last several podcasts I did in this system, somehow the mic didn't work, but Eric finally stepped it up, so I'm going to sound nice.
Hey, we're all good here, and yes, I thought you meant you were coming in hot because you have 15-month-old twins, and that would make anybody come in hot.
That too.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on your twins, and congratulations on the song we're going to talk about today, Sail. This song's a monster, and I can't wait to get the story behind it. I know that back in 2009, and I got the story just now from your partner, Eric. He was telling me about how he had come to work with Red Bull Records, and they gave you free reign to go over to the headquarters of their studio and record some stuff, which led to the first EP, Back from Earth, in May 2010. And then your debut album, Megalithic Symphony, was released on March 15th, 2011 through Red Bull Records, preceded by the first single, Sail, on November 8th, 2010. Tell me about this song. Do you recall writing it? I'm sure you do.
Yes, I recall writing it, and very impressed with your dates, your accuracy.
Thank you.
That's how I met Eric. That's how I reunited with Eric, because Eric originally recorded my hardcore band, Insurgents, I want to say in the late, let's call it, the late 90s in Sacramento at this old iconic studio. And, we parted ways, did our own thing. I was in a couple other bands, and we reconnected when Red Bull reached out to me about being interested in allowing me to use their really nice state-of-the-art studio in Santa Monica, California. And Eric happened to be the in-house engineer. And I remember my management at the time said, hey, this guy, Eric Stenman, he works at Red Bull at the studio. And I was like, wow, this is unbelievable. And I know this guy. We mixed it up before in the hardcore days, so this should be really fun. And then we reunited and cut to today. Now he works for me in our studio here, where I'm talking to you from. So that was a really good sign from my comfort level to go with Red Bull Records at the time. And I should say that I already had Sail and a group of other songs written and recorded at a different studio before I went to the nice Red Bull studio. So what I did at Red Bull was, mix Sail properly, add a couple elements to the song, but I had a couple other songs recorded already. Sail, Burn It Down, Guilty Filthy Soul, a song called All I Need, and I did that at a good friend of mine by the name of Jimmy Messer at his studio in Venice. And those were the songs that got Red Bull Records interested in giving an old guy like me who was damaged goods in the industry a fourth chance at it. And, the rest is history.
I'm seeing that a lot now, Aaron, as longer the time goes by and the leveling of the playing field of major labels, and you don't need any of that now. And, everything is so streaming based that there are guys that are our age, my age, that you still have a chance. It's not a young person's game anymore.
You're right. And, my drummer Isaac said something interesting in the beginning of, and I'm even noticing that with AWOLNATION now, 12, 13, however many years you want to call it when we officially started, down the road, I've seen peaks and valleys. Obviously, the first record exploded. Second record had a bunch of success in weird different ways. The third record, fourth, and so now I'm on the fifth record. And each record had its own weird accidental sort of miracle happen, which has allowed me to continue to do it, right? And I suppose I would do it anyways, but it's never the song that I think it's going to be that either puts me on the map or reaches the most ears necessarily. And I've even noticed, to your point, that so Isaac, full circle back to my drummer, we were playing a show with Weezer probably in 2014. I talk about them a lot. I'm a huge fan of Weezer, Love Rivers, and he sang on an AWOL song as well. But he said, man, just stick around, right? And I'm sure even less than Jake could relate to what I'm talking about as well. Like if you just stick around and continue to write good songs, trends come and go, fads come and go, of course, and you age with people. So then you look at the audience, you're going, okay, we're all parents, and some of your kids like the group now.
Yes.
And John Lennon said something like this, much more eloquently than I am now, but he said something like, we're all growing old together, and how cool that is. So yeah, and for me, back to this moment where I wrote Sail, I was sincerely damaged goods. No major label was going to take another shot at me. I had signed in a previous band to Maverick Warner Brothers under Guy Oseary, Madonna's label at the time.
Yeah.
And he was great for giving me a chance. I was a hot-headed young songwriter in my early 20s. Thought that it was okay to just, destroy the stage like Nirvana did and all my favorite punk bands and stand up for what you thought was the right, what I thought was the right artistic move. And hilariously, even with that band, I'll just tell this brief story and then I won't continue on with a bunch of stories from the past, but I wanted to go with a song called Questions off my first signed record, right? My first professional release. And they wanted to go with a song called 18. 18 was clearly the better choice looking back, but I was so stubborn. We wanted to go with the cool, more aggressive, hard song.
Yeah.
And then cross over to the ballad, the way we grew up listening to music, whether it was Pearl Jam, Metallica, Nirvana, you go with the hard hitter first and then cross over to the ballad. And if you go ballad first, you're a sellout and all that, right?
Yeah.
And K-Rock, God bless their soul, played 18. And I marched into Guy Oseary's office and said, don't let him play it anymore. We're not ready. It's not time yet. We need to go with the punk song first. And immediately, that moment, that move that we all collectively made as a band absolutely set up an uphill battle from that point on in my career, all the way until AWOLNATION. And, if I were to see Guy again, I would say, dude, I'm sorry about that. That was the wrong decision. And I'm glad I made that decision because of the journey it unfolded as a result. But
yeah,
man, and I could see in his face, he's thinking, you punk kid, you have no idea how hard it is to get on the radio at all, let alone the most influential station in the country of K-Rock, and they liked the song. And and so that was that. That was the start of many bad decisions that made me, kind of took the long journey up the weird mountain.
Well, I hate to say it, you're not unique. Young musicians, nobody gets in their own way quicker than a young musician. And we make those decisions. A lot of them are just, how we feel in the moment. I don't want my friends to hear the ballad first. They got to know that we went out hard. And at the end of the day, we look back and go, geez, what were we thinking? And I'm going to ask you what you were thinking, because I think by this point, 2010 to 2011, your CD record track listing wasn't maybe as important as it was years prior, because we were already getting into streaming and things by this point. And what I'm getting at is Sail was song number 10 out of 13 on the album. So did you know you had a hit with this song? Did you know it was something special, or did you think that maybe it was another song like before?
Well, by the time that full length came out and we placed a lot of the EP songs on the full length, by the time the full length came out, we knew that the song had a special ability and a unique ability to reach people and have a reaction in a way that I had never had before, and in many other people's words, a way no one had seen before, or at least in a long time. And that's not to say that my opinion of the song, good or bad, it just was having a reaction that was absolutely stunning. And so, that all being said, I was totally comfortable putting it deeper on the album, right? Because if you're, the old school way that we all grew up thinking, if you have a hit song, you could put it later and then people have to listen to your other stuff first.
Okay, that's a good point. A
little manipulation to the ears, right? And so I put it deeper, and it just fit there. And of course, it was just starting to take off, and I didn't know how far it would go, but I remember my manager saying, this is going to go. And many stations said, no, we don't want to play it. It's too slow. It's too this, too that. But we knew we had the power of the listener on our side, because whoever played it got a reaction with the phones lighting up. And I have this vision of, like Wayne's World, something like this, where, the old phone and all the lights are like, lighting up. And that actually happened. And I thought that hadn't happened anymore, right? Or stopped happening. So it was really encouraging to find out that radio listeners were still passionate about new stuff. And the rest is kind of history.
Back in the day, the industry would say, it's reacting in radio. And
yes.
That's
We're waiting to hear the research. And for any listener, there's so many off-putting ways to find out what a hit song is that's, not quite as sexy as you'd think. And a lot of it is research or they study to find out how people are reacting, how long are they paying attention? It's almost like polling or voting or
it really is.
And music isn't an exact science, and some songs take a little longer. And just because you don't instantly love a song doesn't mean it's not a hit, and it doesn't mean that it's not a good song necessarily. I mean, how many songs have we all heard where you hear it and think, you know what, I want to hear that again. I think I like that a lot, but I don't remember it necessarily. I know there's this one part I like, but I need to hear it again. Then you hear it again. All of a sudden, it's one of your favorite songs. And then it introduces you to a deeper album possibly, and perhaps an album that you'll love for the rest of your life. And, that's what music's all about. So no one knows is the point. No, none of us know what we're doing. We're just making the best music we can, and labels are scrambling right now. And it's, I don't know that personally, but it seems that everybody's trying to figure out what's going on. And that's a good thing to me.
Yeah, they are. It feels like we're trying to figure out what's going on now, more so than ever. When my band started in the early 90s, it was cassette, then it went to the CD, to the MP3. It just keeps evolving, and you got to keep up with it. Sail debuted at number 89 on the Hot 100 in September 2011. The song spent 20 weeks there before dropping out, and then the single re-entered the Hot 100 a year later, becoming a massive sleeper hit and reaching a new peak of number 17. It's the first song to climb to its peak a year after the Hot 100. Talk about staying power. That's awesome. It spent the fourth longest amount of time on the Billboard Hot 100 with 79 weeks behind Glass Animals, The Weeknd, Blinding Lights, and Imagine Dragons. And as of May 2024, the song has accumulated more than 810 million streams on Spotify. Insane. Sale was certified triple platinum by the RIAA in June 2013, and by May 2017 had sold over 6.1 million copies. That's now at 10 million copies. I'll say it again, man. Congratulations, Aaron.
Thank you.
It's incredible.
There was something in there that I wanted to not correct necessarily, but add to, because it's such a miracle, you know. I forgot what it was. It doesn't matter. That
was it about re-entering the Hot 100 possibly?
No, I don't know. That could be true. I don't look, when it was all happening, I kept my head down.
How could you not? Yeah, you
know, now that it had finally happened, and after, you know, just scrambling forever to figure out a way to be a real professional and make a living doing it, because at the time of writing the song, I was struggling. I was really at a crossroads where all the money had run out from previous record deals and whatever small investments I had made with that money, and, you know, tried to do my best to be somewhat conservative with the decisions I made financially. But that had all run dry, and then some, and I had debt and the whole deal. And so at this point, I didn't have a backup plan. What I mean by that is I didn't have a backup plan outside of music. So plan B was to try to get into writing commercial songs, you know, for commercial jingles, let's call them, which is hard. You know, many of my friends do that, and that's a certain skill set, and it's intense work and takes a, you know, extreme amount of talent to do as well. You know, so I started to get into that, and with this gentleman, Jimmy Messer, I mentioned earlier, he was kind enough to open up his studio to me, to help him with some of the stuff he was doing. And so, I never left the studio. I never left music. I was a studio rat, kind of hanging out and trying to figure out, you know, what to do. And that's kind of what led me to have the opportunity to record my own thing finally, because all the bands I had been in had reached its natural endings. So at this point, I had a little bit of studio time to start what ended up being AWOLNATION and that song.
I love it. Well, you also produced the song. The track is 4 minutes and 19 seconds. I went with the album cut versus the radio edit. I feel the album cut is just, it's just awesome.
Thank you.
Aaron, the intro of this song, I hate to say this, but you could probably just loop the intro. It could be in sports games. It could be, you wouldn't even have to go any further, because this intro, to me, not taking anything apart from the verses, because that's where all the lyrical imagery and the info is, because the chorus is just one word. But this intro, it stands by itself as its own song. There's so much going on here. This intro alone took me more than an hour to comb through, and I kept hearing different stuff. It's layered, so cool. It's a 16-bar intro. We first hear 2 pickup notes. You can't start counting your bars there because you'll be off. Mm-hmm. And those 2 pickup notes, it's like an electric piano panned off to the right that is then joined by a lower, slightly percussive synth panned off left. That goes for 8 bars. On bar 9, we get that first distorted synth stab. And that noise right there is like, okay, that's one of the big hooks in this song. There's hooks all over the place. I guarantee there was somebody calling a radio station saying, I don't know the name of the song, but it goes, you know, because nothing really to me sounded like that, at least at the time on the radio. On bar 9, we hear that distorted synth stab. The synth sound we heard left is now panned off right, playing a new part. And the synth to the left is now this spacey, movie-esque sounding thing. It's super awesome. That first distorted synth stab has this ooh sounding vocal panned left and right. On bar 11, we get a synth stab and the same ooh vocal pan left and right. Bar 13, it's a different ooh with a synth stab. Bar 15, we get the stab with a different ooh. So the first two oohs are the same and the back two are different, as well as a cymbal kick drum hit in between bar 15 and 16. On bar 16th, another synth stab, and there is an electronic hand clap and another cymbal kick hit, followed by the first vocal. It's super blown out vocals, panned hard left and right, saying sail. This is followed by 8 more bars with the drum beat now in, with those hand claps. That distorted stabby synth is now running continuously underneath with yet another synth hook. And this synth hook, the new synth hook, I'm calling it, Aaron, the Super Freak Rick James funk synth. That's what it sounds like, that noise there. It's such a cool sound. There's also an electric sounding shaker, panned off kind of left here. It's like, and that is yet another hook. We get that later in the song in the bridge. It's so cool. You would never necessarily think of a shaker as a hook, but where it's placed is awesome. And also on the last 8 bars before verse 1, there may be another atmospheric synth mixed into. I can't really tell. There is so much going on here. And I'm going to ask you as the person who created this, how do you know when enough's enough? There's so much here, but it's orchestrated perfectly.
You got me emotional with the wonderful explanation of the song. Technically, kind of took me back and walked me through the process of recording that. That was awesome.
Well, thank you.
That song just felt so nice from the first element that was recorded all the way till the end, and it just felt like an easy. I suppose you could compare it to a painting of some sort, and I'm not a painter. I wish I was. A couple of buddies are, and it was just some songs just don't fight back, and this one just took over and kind of had a plan, and I just tried to stay out of the way. And you mentioned the 2 bars or the 2 hits before it starts, right? And so that was the first note I heard on an MPC that had that string sample on it. And funny enough, I mean, if you were to hear that note, I just immediately knew that it wasn't supposed to be that note that was the root note of the song. I knew that seemed to be kind of a count off. 1, 2, start, right? Yeah. Instead of here we are starting on this note, and I never thought about it again. Until you mentioned it. To be completely honest with you, and I remember asking. I should say, my buddy Kenny, who ended up playing synth keyboards on tour and a bunch of other instruments. He was there.
Kenny Carkeet.
Correct.
Yes. Okay.
He ended up he engineered that song, so he was very instrumental in helping me get it all recorded properly. And I said, like, hey, can we spread this out and I could play it on a keyboard? Because I love the tone. He said, sure. So we spread it out, and then I started to lay into the chord progression, and it just kind of wrote itself. It was such a weird experience, and it all just worked out. It was just kind of in the right place at the right time in my career, in my songwriting. And remember, this was the first time that I'd been alone with no other opinion, and I was ready for that. And by the way, there was nobody who thought this was going to happen. There was no one saying, okay, we need a hit out of you. No one thought that was, that was the last thing on my mind. I was just thinking, follow my instinct here, and this is cool. This feels good. That was it. And and cut to the end of the night, and basically the whole thing, with the exception of some overdubs, some of the mixing you pointed out and panning, that came later. But
yeah.
The chorus, the verse, those vocals, that was all done in one night and pretty fast. And look, and I've spent hours on other songs.
we all tend to do
right?
that.
But this was not that song. It just was quick. And, I sang, Kenny left, and I was alone. And it was kind of a really special moment to have this nice studio in Venice, Jimmy Messer's studio, and sit there and go, okay, well, I had a mic kind of like I'm talking to you now. I don't remember if I stood or sat to sing that. I can't remember.
Well, this intro, if you're going to talk about electronic music, I mean, yeah, you had, your industrial bands, let's say, back in the day, Ministry and stuff. You could say,
Sure.
oh, okay, this is keyboard heavy, but it's still super heavy. I can't think of, and I don't even know what you would call this track. Dance? It's a very slow to dance to, but this beginning, I mean, it's so heavy with what's going on here and the placement and the bass. It is just, it's awesome. Out of this intro, we get into verse 1. This is how I show my love. I'm waiting on my mind because I'm blaming on my ADD, baby. This is how an angel does. I'm blaming on my own surprise. Blaming on my ADD, baby. This is how I show my love. I made it in my mind because. Blame it on my ADD baby. This is how an angel dies. Blame it on my own sick pride. Blame it on my ADD baby. And real quick, before you talk about them, I don't know when I first heard the term ADD, but I don't think it was the 90s. It had to have been after that. It was a newer word. So that ADD is such a hook. And again, I guarantee there's people calling the radio station, hey, I don't know the name of the song, but they talk about ADD. That right there is as big of a hook to me as that synth stab. Mm-hmm. It's so cool. What's happening here?
Well, one lyric correction, and this has been a debate with the fans forever, but it's actually...
I got something wrong. What'd I say?
It's I blame it on my own supply.
It's not sick pride. I blame it on my own.
But here's the funny thing, and this is the beautiful miracle, is that sick pride is better. It just is. It's more universal, so I don't care. I mean, that song's such an easy one to play because I don't really have to sing that much of it. That one's not mine anymore. That's for everybody, right? So wherever we are, if we're playing a festival or doing our own headlining show, everybody sings it. So, and most people sing the incorrect lyric, but hey, let's rewrite history, whatever. I'm just glad people know it.
The thing about this that it just amazes me is, and I'll be cautious with my words, but neither one of us are going to know the answer to this. Mm-hmm. I think this is such an incredible piece of music on its own, a statement of music. I could almost argue that you could have said anything in these verses and this still would have been a hit. Am I wrong?
I think...
That's not to take away anything lyrically that you're saying here, man, but I just think this is such a powerful... This song moves me without a vocal.
Thank you. Well, that's a great question. I think that the ADD topic and lyric hadn't been... it was just sitting there waiting to be used, and it hadn't been used yet, and it was just the right time. And I think it had become popular and probably overused in high school, because I was told that I had ADD, and that's why my grades were so poor. And so, it was recommended that I took drugs, of course, and I didn't. I entertained the thought of it and tried something, for a second, not to get into that. And I was like, this makes me feel weird. It was prescribed, and
sure.
And I was like, this just feels icky inside. So I bailed, and then it occurred. I've always had this blessing and curse to question authority, and even with teachers at a young age. Maybe it's the punk rock in me or whatever. But I remember thinking, I think I'm getting bad grades because I don't care about what they're teaching me. Mm-hmm. And I don't believe them. And I was thinking about music and surfing and real life outside of these authority figures that I didn't feel that you're supposed to respect your teachers, respect your elders, and I do respect my elders. But I didn't, I just had this chip on my shoulder to think like, this guy's kind of a jerk, and I'm not interested in what he's saying to me, mm-hmm. And I'm sure so many kids could relate to that feeling. And so I moved on and thought, I think I'm okay. I don't think there's anything wrong with me that I'm getting bad grades. I'm just not interested. And then I didn't feel like I was incapable of getting good grades. I just wasn't capable of learning what from these individuals, right? So that's where the concept came from. So that was like the late 90s, right? And so by the time I wrote the song, it had been, maybe I was lucky to hear about that term earlier on than most people because of that.
Well, by 2010, you heard it on every commercial for Pfizer or whatever. You know, it was ADD, everyone was hearing
and
it.
ADHD. And look, and that's, I'm not saying that's not a real thing, but it felt a little too loosely addressed to my situation, you know, and so I rebelled, and that's how you get this song and that lyric later on. It's sarcasm, you know. I'm just joking, basically.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like saying like, hey, I got a lot of issues. I know you do too. So I guess you could blame that because that's what they tried to do.
You said the song came together quickly. Did the lyric come to you quickly too?
Yes. So the lyrics came even quicker than the song. So we already went over the intro, and, you know, and I've said this before, but it feels to me that the best songs, or at least in my trajectory or my career path or journey, has been that the songs that come most natural and quickest seem to be the ones that relate to the widest variety of people. I don't know why, you know, and I think a lot of songwriters could attest to that.
That's what I found on this show. The biggest hits were written without a thought. And I've had a couple people tell me, and they're not trying to get, you know, spiritual or you know, ethereal on me, but they've said that it's weird. I sat down on a couch one day and I felt like I was a vessel, and that this song came through. I don't even know how it happened. And then the other 8 songs on the record I belabored over for a year and kept going back and remixing them, and they didn't become what this song became. So that's a really interesting point. Verse 1, we get the synth stab on every line. What I'm calling the Rick James synth, the super funk, the super freak synth, that's running underneath every line here. On the third line, blame it on my ADD, baby. We get 2 more synth stabs on the third and the 6th line. That synth is panned off left, another one, and we get the super funk synth panned center there for 2 little accentuation licks at the end of the verses. And then we go right in to chorus 1. And again, I'm going to ask you about this lyric. You know, you say sail 5 times. This is quite possibly the greatest use of 3 chords ever put to recording. I mean, it's slow. There's not much going on here. It's a 1-word chorus. It's blown out vocals, distorted. There's no harmony here. What were you trying to get across with the term sail? Because again, it could be argued you could have just said, hey, here, and it probably would have done the same thing.
Right. Well, I think verse 1 and 2, but we just discussed verse 1. So it was a journal entry, right? It was sort of like I wrote, again, I was alone when I recorded the vocals, right? And I'm not an engineer, but I was becoming somewhat savvy and handy with Pro Tools. And when I sang it, it was blown out, but not so blown out. A lot of people think it is, and I understand why, but my voice kind of does that. So it was, my voice distorts out in a certain range when it gets a little higher notes. And so that was already happening. And on top of that, it was blown out. So it was in the red. Kenny came back and I was like, yo, I think I just nailed this. And he's like, he looked at it and visually said, dude, we're probably gonna have to redo it. You blew out the track, And I'm like, I don't know. Let's listen back. And we listened. And I'm like, I think that's nice. I'm not gonna re-sing that. Fuck it. And I doubled it. I did 1 take of the verse all the way up to the lyric sail, and then I doubled it all the way up to that first sail as well. That's the first and second take, and I never redid it again. When I said sail into that sort of instrumental chorus, let's be honest, that lyric to me is my solution to the problem. So in other words, here's what's on my mind. All I know is music. It's getting really hard. It's getting pretty dark here. Don't know if I'm going to make it. So what's my solution? The ocean. because I'm a surfer. And that seemed like as good. I knew it was a one-syllable situation right there. And so I just threw it out. Again, you got to understand, I didn't think anyone would hear it, except maybe my older brother or some of my buddies who were technically sound, that I'd be like, check it out, I have a nice blend. Because at the time, there wasn't a lot of music like that. And I got really lucky. No one thought of something like this first. And, back to your point about the synth, that we keep talking about, that low-end synth, I always saw, whether it was like older funk bands or guitar was kind of played out at the time. Remember, nu metal had kind of come and gone, and things were getting a little more like pop sounding and kind of indie pop sounding and more dance. And there's a bunch of hit songs around that time, like Foster the People, their big song, and different other bands. And it was kind of an interesting time because stuff was starting to open up in a different way, and there wasn't a formula necessarily. And I got so lucky that I saw that bass synth as a weapon that no one was really using, because I couldn't use distorted guitar because it would have been cornball if it was on guitar, right?
I love that you say that because I had written up here in the notes that synth stab is like an audio assault.
It is, yeah, it is. And I've always been into shocking the listener and myself. The music I like, whoa, out of left field. You get gut punched, and I just feel like electronic music was kind of on the underground. There was that first Justice record called Genesis that blew my mind. There was this band called Simian Mobile Disco. So dance music, even looking back to Prodigy and some of the ways they used synth and dubstep was on the underground at the time. And so I was always searching underneath the surface for stuff. And so that bass synth sound was definitely a weapon that just hadn't been used, and now it's commonly used, almost too much. Like the synth bass is kind of the new played out guitar in a lot of ways.
It really is, and synth bass has been used for a long time, for since the 70s, 80s, but it is, and everything goes in cycles.
The Gap Band, look back, that's the band I was looking for. The Gap Band, like You Dropped the Bomb on Me, that song. Yeah, that was an 80s classic that my mom used to always play, and I remember, I didn't understand how to even conceptualize what it was that I liked about it, but that was so nasty and big and huge sounding. And there's something about a synth bass that could cut through more clear and more violently than a regular bass guitar.
You dropped the bomb on me, baby. You dropped the bomb on me. But you turned me up, you dropped the bomb on me.
And so I got really lucky with the timing of that as well.
Well, in the chorus, the instrumentation carries over from the verses, and that atmospheric synth sounds predominantly pan left here. The last sail goes right into verse 2. Maybe I should cry for help. Maybe I should kill myself. Myself. Blame it on my ADD baby. Maybe I'm a different breed. Maybe I'm not listening. So blame it on my ADD baby.
Well, when you put it that way, it was just a continuation from the first verse. And addressing maybe I'm not listening. I think I was going back to the original diagnosis of having ADD and addressing those teachers I disliked so much. And what's funny about it is my mom and sister are teachers, and they're wonderful teachers. All of their students love them. They were always requested, and I think teachers are incredible. I just had some bad experiences, and I think everybody does, but I was kind of more looking at the glass half empty.
I don't think any of us got into music because we liked authority figures. Yeah. I mean, that, we were all rebelling against something.
Hey everybody, don't go anywhere. We got lots more coming up with Aaron Bruno after a few words from our sponsors.
Looking to elevate your music career? DistroKid is a digital music distribution service. that enables musicians to distribute their music to online stores and streaming platforms such as Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music, Amazon, Tidal, and many more. DistroKid collects earnings and payments, sending them to you, the artist. With DistroKid, artists unlock a world of possibilities. From easily paying collaborators with splits, to securing your music with DistroLock, DistroKid covers all bases. Plus, you can promote your releases with Hyperfollow and create eye-catching visuals with a Spotify Canvas generator, all for free. But that's not all. Introducing the DistroKid app, now available on iOS and Android. Artists can manage their releases, view streaming stats, and withdraw earnings, all from the palm of their hand. And for those looking to perfect their sound, check out Mixia. With its simple interface and customizable mastering options, artists can make their music sound polished and professional within minutes. And don't forget about Instant Share, DistroKid's newest feature. Share large files securely with collaborators, producers, and more, ensuring your music streams at the highest quality. Ready to take your music to the next level? Download the DistroKid app and explore their suite of tools today. Plus, listeners can enjoy 30% off their first year by visiting distrokid.com/VIP/DeMakes. That's distrokid.com/VIP/DeMakes.
One Hit Thunder is a podcast where we both celebrate and have a good laugh about bands and artists that had just one hit that we all know. Each week, we're joined by a guest from the world of music or comedy to learn more than you ever thought you would about some songs that you can't forget. And we decide if they brought the One Hit Thunder or were nothing more than a one-hit blunder. Look, if you listen to the show, you're probably going to laugh, and I guarantee you're going to crush next time the bar has music trivia. Tag Team, Jane Child, Meredith Brooks, Looking Glass, Sean Mullins, Eiffel 65, EMF, Crash Test Dummies, Crazy Town, Chumbawamba. We have hundreds of episodes in our back catalog and a new episode each week, so pass the Dutchie, make sure you're connected, and subscribe to One Hit Thunder wherever you get your pods.
Don't you worry, love you more than you know.
And now, back to the show.
Couple cool things here in verse 2 on the line. Maybe I should kill myself. On the word kill, there's an interesting high squeal on the vocal panned off to the right. And I think that's what you're talking about, where your voice kind of breaks up. Some other really cool stuff here in the verse. Basic same overall instrumentation as verse 1, but we got some cool little flourishes here. After the line, blame it on my ADD baby the first time. Some new blown out tom fills and a loud crash cymbal are present here in verse 2. After maybe I'm a different breed and maybe I'm not listening, panned over to the right on that stereo vocal, I hear like a like I hate having to do that sound. It's like a higher pitch like it's a trail off of your vocal. And I kept listening over and I'm like, what is that? And that's how your voice operates. And sometimes that's how it's really, really cool what was done there. I don't think that if you tried to replicate it, you necessarily could. I think that's just what your voice sounds like. But I kept listening to that part. It was so cool. On the last line, so blame it on my ADD baby, there's a blown out cymbal flutters and an almost marching band snare quality feel to set up for chorus 2. Man, I feel like at this point, Aaron, that I'm 3/4 through the movie. And 3/4 through a movie, okay, you just went through the action scene. You gotta kind of calm everybody down a little bit before you ramp things back up. Chorus 2 doesn't have the urgency of chorus 1, and I think a lot of it has to do with the arpeggiated guitar that comes in here. It's kind of hypnotic, kind of just laying back there. That synth stab doesn't sound like it running through chorus 2, that it's as loud. Maybe it's EQ'd a little less hot here. And I think it's that way to maybe give room to that guitar. Can you talk about that a little bit, please?
Yeah. If I didn't say it before, thanks for the analysis of the song. It's really dead on, and I'm kind of blown away by your observations.
Thank you. I'm blown away that you wrote a song this cool. And I mean that. It's freaking awesome, man. It's awesome.
I still can't believe it, but the guitar, yeah, I think what happened there is, sometimes you may have a synth or a drum at a certain volume, and then you add another texture or another layer, and it becomes softer to the ear. I don't think technically we turned anything down. I just think that soft guitar, I say soft, like, warm tone that came in really helped cool the waters.
Usually,
so to speak.
If anything, you're going to want to make maybe the next chorus, at least in rock music, or metal music, you want to make it lift. Hey, we're going to bring in another guitar here, maybe some more backing vocals. Here it got kind of calm. And I never noticed that. Listen, I've heard this song at malls, restaurants. I've heard it all around the world in my travels. And until I got it here and I looked at it like I'm looking at it now, I'm like, wow, it's like, I felt like my blood pressure go down in this part. Like I'm just kind of chilling out before you get to the bridge, but it's beautiful, that guitar sound. What was the thought behind that?
Well, the song was written so quickly, pretty much front to end, but just had an extremely long fade out. I'm the kind of listener and music fan that once I get in that nice hot tub, I don't want to get out.
Yeah.
And that could, if I were to critique my music, I would say that, sometimes I'll just get too comfortable with a beat or a sample or a loop and just stay there because I love it so much. And a lot of hip hop I liked in the 90s did that. There wouldn't even be a chorus, or even in the 80s, but in the 90s, I think they did a much better job even with that. And, the song never really changes. There's just, once I realized I knew what I wanted to say, I had already sang it. The hard part was over. So then the production was just really fun.
Yeah.
And it's somewhat linear in its recording. And what I mean by that, obviously there are other instruments on top of each other, but nothing really gets in the way. A lot of my other songs are extremely layered, and I love Jeff Lynne so much. And
oh gosh, yeah.
And all the different harmonies and all the different layers of strings and whatnot. But this song kind of like, it's like this strange family that they all got along just enough that day to say, okay, now it's your turn. Now it's your turn. And the second chorus, it was the guitar's turn. And I still love guitar. That's my main instrument I learned on. And Christopher Thorne, the guitar player of Blind Melon, played that guitar part.
Oh, okay. I had that in notes. I didn't know.
Yeah, and I wrote it and I sang it to him and he played it.
That's awesome.
And I also, strangely, I overdubbed those drums you mentioned in the second verse. I can't remember if it was at the Red Bull studio or if it was at Christopher's. I want to say it was at the Red Bull studio, but then I edited those different fills at CT's home studio. And there's a piano in the bridge that I'm sure you were going to get into it was kind of an out-of-tune haunted piano that he had at his studio as well. So this song has a funny thing that it was written easily, and all the rest of the stuff is just fun. I knew I had this song that I thought was good and definitely cool and different. I just kind of trusted my instincts to not fuck the thing up. It's like holding this nice, loaf of bread and trying to get it to the people to eat and not, adding too much salt or butter or whatever. And
yeah.
And so I don't remember what question we were on, but, the guitars. Yeah. So I think the guitars warmed it a little bit, and there was already borderline too much aggro aggression in the song vocally anyways, and a little too much. I was walking that fine line of too much testosterone right there, and I think that guitar added a nurturing comfort to the listener, possibly.
I'm glad you said it, because the last thing I had about chorus 2, it's almost a relief, that guitar, and the way the scene, I'm calling it a scene change, I'll use that term again. It's a relief from the heaviness that precedes it. This is a heavy track, man, for what it is. I wouldn't necessarily ever, as a younger kid, is this song heavy? No, it's not. It's not Slayer. No. It doesn't have to be.
Of course, it's not Pantera. This is weak, right.
The bridge is 16 bars total. The first 8 bars, drums, piano panned off left, another lower piano center. We also get a low synth in there panned off right, and we get another appearance from that shaker. Is that an electronic noise, that shaker, or is that a real shaker processed?
That's a sample shaker.
It is. Okay. Okay.
And then there's a loop of these sort of blocky percussive instrumentation that's throughout the whole song. And they're kind of like they're very subby sounding.
It's almost like a xylophone, like that sound, like a doom.
Yeah, it's this bubble. They're these little bubbles, right? Let's call them, and they're totally off. So if you were to look at, I played them on the MPC, and it's something like doot, 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 doot. And it's in the whole song basically. It may be muted a few times. I don't remember honestly, but it's in most of the song that's totally off. And I remember when we started touring, my drummer at the time, it drove him crazy because he's a great drummer, but it drove him nuts because he'd hear that sample in his mix and think like, it's so hard to play drums while this thing is pushing me and pulling me. But the cool thing about a loop is that it can be imperfect within the loop as long as it starts on the one again.
There you go.
The bars, right? So that's another fun thing. And, I think whether or not the listener's smart, right? I think all listeners are smart to different degrees of, whether they know how to technically describe it or not. But I think especially in today's world and back then, pop music was just wild around that time. And I think the human heart and ears wants somewhat of an imperfection, and that goes a long way. And so that's an example of something that is totally wrong technically. Musically it's completely off, but it's consistently off throughout the whole song. And I think people feel that, and that may have been a hypnotic drug that people aren't even aware of.
That's such a great point, but we don't even think about those little idiosyncrasies within the song that, makes a person, they can't explain it, but it makes them feel a certain way. That electronic shaker, how do you even say that? It's hard to
something like that, yeah.
To make the noise with my mouth, but that shaker sound is on bar 2, 4, 6, 7, and 8. We also get some vocal whispers, and those electronic hand claps are here, as well as some buried la la and ooh vocals here. Is just this la 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 part. Interestingly enough, though, Aaron, it's the first time we get a true harmony in this song on the la la las.
Yeah, so there are harmonies in that. I should point out that on those oohs throughout the song from the intro, there is a harmony on the ooh technically.
Okay.
But and a funny story about those oohs, especially in the intro, I was singing those oohs, and then in between singing, there was a delay reverb trail that sounded better than the oohs to me. So I thought, how do we get that and use that as the oohs? And that's what we did. So we were able to capture, the affected aftermath of the actual singing and use that as the oohs. And I call those the ghosts. They sound like spooky ghosts, right?
They do. And I love where they're mixed here.
And it was an accident. That was an accident, another accident. There were a lot of accidents on this song. Had that not happened, it would have just been a little more clear of these oohs that you hear throughout the song. But I think that ghostly accident really made the song stand out.
Was that piano, and we're talking hairs here, maybe only my ear would pick it up, but you had mentioned it was just like this piano you decided to use, that piano that's panned off left, it's kind of high pitched. It almost has like a toy piano quality to it, like it's slightly out of tune.
Yeah, I've always loved the toy piano sound. I mean, I can't even tell you how many times I've said to Eric, my engineer now, like, all right, pull up a toy piano sample or the toy pianos I have now for my boys, even. But that instance was actually just a real old piano that Christopher Thorne had in his studio, and it was kind of out of tune, and I played it, one octave. I'm not a great piano player at all. I'm good enough to record. I'm good enough to play what's in my head once.
Yeah.
but never again. And so, even in the sale video I ended up doing, my buddy Cameron Duddy, talented director, and now is in a successful country band called Midland. He's like, okay, play the piano part. And I thought, like, dude, I don't really know how to play this. I did it in the studio.
I Frankensteined it.
Yeah, I was like, I guess I'm playing this thing right. And you can totally tell, you could show the clip if you want, but like, I'm not playing that. I don't know what
you're
I'm
in
doing
the wrong, you're in the wrong key.
Yeah. So I played it and then I overdubbed an octave higher, because and I think that's something important to mention. I don't think you have to be, I know you don't have to be an excellent master musician to write good songs. It's important to know some instruments to at a certain level so you could convey your idea, but you don't have to be able to shred necessarily to have success. I can't shred on anything, but my ears are so open and I love music so much that I've been able to harness and curate the music that's come into my head and put that forward and cherry pick what I like, and this song's a great example of that. And, when you listen to the track, there's, it's pretty janky. Christopher's a great guitar player. Even the drum fills I overdubbed, they're slop house, and I wanted it to feel like a train crash during those.
You got me excited with that because this all adds to the heaviness of the song. Okay. Why does it sound heavy? Why does it have a little bit of angst to it? Because it's not all pretty. The piano's not perfectly pretty and in tune. The cymbals are the tom fills are kind of all over the place. And that's what gives this song its quality. On the last two la la la's, a big marching band snare comes in, and then we go right in to chorus 3. And chorus 3, we get the sail 5 times again, but something interesting here. And I A.B.'d this 30 times with the other chorus 2, because this chorus 3 mimics a lot of what's in chorus 2. We got that arpeggiated guitar is also here in chorus 3, but the sails all sound a bit more morose here. You have like a slight trail off at the end of the word. It makes it feel a little more somber compared to the other 2 choruses.
Well, I ended up hitting a scream harmony, really, So the first 2 choruses has just that note I hit with sail, but on the last chorus, I'm doing a harmony of that in the screaming tone. So yeah, that's a big part of it. And the drums open up a little more wide.
Yeah.
The real drums, that is. I remember thinking, Chris, that during the recording of the song, it felt like a little kid in a candy store, in a lot of ways. I was thinking, like, I could really do this stuff. There's no one here to say, you can't sing this way, or you can't have hip hop drums, from this MPC player and then add real drums over that. You can't do that because it's whatever. And there were no rules. And that was such a big part of it.
Well, Sharon, I'm really glad. And thanks for sharing that and what you touched on a moment ago of saying, I'm just some dude that has these ideas and these songs in my head, but, technically I'm not a really proficient musician, but I'm telling you, there's going to be people that hear this episode and hear you say that, and that might be just the one thing to give them hope and not sell their recording equipment and go get a real job. And that person,
I hope so.
That person might have a sale themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can't wait to hear it because it lifts us all up. And I think what's important is that, to keep listening to music, to keep listening to other genres. Like, how many of our buddies are like, oh, I hate country, right? That's a common genre to hate, even though it's the biggest genre. But there's amazing country songs. There are amazing country songs. There are amazing classical songs. There are amazing R&B songs. You know, there are amazing jazz songs. You just have to look. There are amazing punk rock songs. There's good pop punk. You know, you just find good songs. And when you're younger, and certainly when I was younger, I would get a little stuck in a genre. When I discovered hardcore, 90s hardcore, I only listened to that. But I always had my Michael Jackson CDs on deck as well, or my Prince CDs, or Pantera, or Iron Maiden, or whatever. And, you know, so whatever music you're into, I guess I'm speaking more to younger music lovers, but, you know, whatever you think is the coolest music at the time kind of influences the way you dress, the way you talk, you know, the friends you have. But even if it has to be secretly, never give up on those other genres of music. I think that's really important.
Yeah, I've always said that. I remember having friends come over and they'd see my record collection, and, you know, my punk friends, they'd be like, what? Mm-hmm. And they would laugh, like, you got a Tina Turner album? I'm like, yeah, it rules.
It rules. And it's probably better than the other CDs that you guys are all listening to, or tapes, or whatever.
It's going to be better than the band we're going to see at the show tonight. Yeah.
Of course, way better, and real musicians who throw down, you know. So that's a huge thing. So if you have your little crew, right, and there's 10 of you and you love only hardcore music, only metal, only listen to heavy metal, you know, well, if you're listening to Rhythm Nation by Janet Jackson, you're the punk rocker now.
That right there is the sound clip for the whole episode. I love it.
That song blew me away when it came out. I remember my older brother got, I'm like, oh my gosh, Rhythm Nation, like, what is it? It's like a heavy metal song. Black Cat kicks ass too, by the way.
It really is. Yeah, Michael Wagner, a famous heavy metal mixer producer in the 80s. Michael did everyone from Metallica, Skid Row. I think he mixed Master of Puppets. Wow. He mixed that song. They wanted a rock. A rock feel with that. Couple more things before we wrap up, Aaron. There's what I'm calling a post-chorus here after chorus 3.
Yeah.
We get some falsetto on the line, sail with me into dark, and we get another sail, and that happens 4 times. Sail with me into dark, sail. Sail with me into dark, sail, and one final one. Sail with me, and then you say sail again there. What was the thought here? You needed a little something more. All we've said is sail in the chorus. You wanted one last hook?
Yeah, it seemed like after all that aggression and tantrum vocals, you know, it seemed appropriate and nice to have. I've always visualized different singers being like, so if you had to receive very bad news, not to go dark, but it's sort of a dark lyric. If you had to receive terrible news, who would you want to receive that from? What kind of vocal would that be? Maybe it's Jewel. Jewel has such a pretty voice, or, you know, you'll come across someone with just a sweet delivery that's nice to your ears, okay? And so that was my way of getting into that character in that scenario, saying like, hey, we've been through the rough waters here, and it's going to be okay. So come hold my hand as we get there. And it looks dark, but we're going to be okay.
That's such an insane explanation and a great explanation, because this part, I listened to it so many times. I was trying to figure out if that was a woman's voice. And I'm like, no, I think that's Aaron. And it does add to that sentimentality of, here's bad news. Let's have a calming, a little more soothing voice come in here to kind of, soften the angst.
Quick little story. I've always felt pretty comfortable singing high, singing in my falsetto. And as a young kid, I remember being in the car, my mom's car, and there were, I played Little League baseball and different sports, and I was singing the song "It Must Have Been Love."
Yeah, Roxette, and that may have been in the Pretty Woman soundtrack. It was.
I think it was. Great song. She's great, and I was singing it like with a lot of confidence.
It must have been love, but it's over now.
my other buddies in the car made fun of me, of course. They said, hey, you sound this way or that way. I won't get into what they said. I was really young, so my memory's a little foggy on that, but they were teasing me basically.
Sure.
And I felt embarrassed. I thought, like, what's wrong? Why can I sing this high and I sound more like my sister should sound than how these dudes should sound? And I think I kind of, abandoned my falsetto all the way, certainly in punk rock, and certainly, although it would have been punk rock to sing in falsetto looking back now. And then, I was screaming, and then I discovered Jeff Buckley, that Grace album, and he sang so high and so well, and that made me feel confident and okay. I'm not comparing myself to Jeff Buckley. I would never do such a thing. He's one of the greatest singers that ever lived. But it gave me this certain kind of confidence and got me back into feeling comfortable singing in my falsetto and doing my best Prince kind of stuff. And I'm glad I did that. And, I'm glad this kid made fun of me back then, because it dragged me through the different emotions of using that part of my voice. That's the part that tucks you in at the end of the song, I guess.
I love it. And I'll tell you what else I love about this. I love the outro of this song, not because there's anything special that happens with this outro. It's 24 bars. And on bar 9 through 24, bar 9 is when we start this super slow fade out.
Yeah.
I love this part because I feel like, Aaron, if the song just sail, it just stopped, it'd be like a finality with it. I don't know how else to explain. It'd be like, okay, that was jarring. Like this song happened. It was intense. You get that falsetto vocal, and then you get this kind of a moment to just take a deep breath and exhale of what you just heard. That's what this outro reminds me of. It's the perfect way to end a song. I know the song was written quickly. You get the mix back, and you had mentioned, I think, that some of your management people are hearing like, dude, this could be a smash. When did you know? When was it like, this is glaringly obvious that something's happening with this, that this is going to react?
I should mention that there were people around that thought it was great but needed a chorus, and I told them to fuck themselves. I did. I said, fuck you.
Good.
Pardon my language. Why does everything have to be so formulaic? Just let it be what it's. No one's going to care anyways. Just shut up and let me just do my thing. And thank God I felt that way. And there's some debate behind closed doors of who said that or didn't, It doesn't matter. I was lucky to stick to my instinct on that.
I'm not so sure I wouldn't have made the same call if I was an A&R guy at a
yeah,
label.
and maybe me too. Yeah. I guess it was sort of some payback to myself for denying my first, signed band's single, 18 with Guy Osiris and that whole thing. But I don't know when I realized it was a hit. I'm still discovering it now.
Yeah.
And I think, as you mentioned, the outro kind of keeps going, the song keeps going, and still wherever I go, if someone connects the dots that I created that song, they almost unanimously have something positive to say.
Yeah.
And what a cool thing, and it's a fun song to play live. It's not terribly difficult to sing or anything like that. And if it was another song, that would be probably a bummer to have to carry that forever. So it's one I'm proud of. But I think in Austin, Texas, we were told that the song was just erupting with the phones. And so that was my first glimpse of hope and possibility that it could do something. And it was such a slow burner that there was never a moment like, and by the way, it was never a number one song, technically.
I know. I know, but and what does that mean in terms of charts? Okay, it didn't hit number one, but think of the life this song has had since. I know you're seeing this on TikTok Reels. You're still seeing, and you're gonna see this. This song's not gonna die. This song was it was too massive, and it's too cool of a track. Before we break, I'm gonna let you plug a couple things. You got some stuff coming up. You have a brand new album called The Phantom 5. It'll be out on August 30th, and you guys will be touring this summer with 311 and the Neon Trees. Tell the 311 guys that the guy from Less Than Jake said hello. We did their cruise last year, and that was
awesome.
That was a blast. And before I let you get into the new record, talk about that a little bit, I just want to tell you, I love, my listeners know this, I love a great story of perseverance and triumph. And I'm proud of you, and super stoked for your success. I mean that with all my heart.
And I appreciate you taking the time, Chris, and looking so deeply into it. I haven't ever talked about the song like this, ever.
Oh, thank you. Thank you much. What's going on with the Phantom 5 out August 30th?
Who cares after this whole conversation that we just had,
Can we end it on that? Can we just end it on that?
Yeah, sure. What am I going to tell you that, hey, after all of that, like, hey, this is just as good as Sail or better. I'll say
maybe this one will go to number one for you, Aaron. Maybe it'll go to number one.
Look, I have had one other number one song called Hollow Moon off the second record, and funny enough, that song didn't even, reach as many people as the song Run did, which is the name of the second album as well. Wasn't ever at radio at all, and it's the biggest song from that record. And so I've just been lucky with these kind of accidents, and what I've learned is to not question going far out, right? And going out as far as I can with pushing myself. But as far as this record, it's the fifth one. I have a feeling that what's unique about it is I went into it assuming, sort of fantasizing about it being the last record. And that gave me a different kind of caution to each song I picked to be on it. So that's kind of unique. Whether it is the last one or not remains to be seen. It probably won't be. I'm probably lying to myself and you right now, but I wanted to approach it that way. And at the same time, I am, it's almost like a double album. I'm releasing this hardcore project with Eric, who you were talking to earlier, called The Barbarians of California. And that record, there's 3 songs out. One just came out with Daryl Taberski, the singer of Snapcase, who I bet you've crossed paths with back in the day. So he's on that song, and a couple other legends are as well. And so that record is coming out right around the same time, within a month of the Phantom 5. And it's kind of, it's releasing The Barbarians of California has allowed me to kind of get that off my chest in a lot of ways, the angst and the aggro assault vocally in a lot of ways that allowed me to be very calm. And not that this AWOLNATION record is softer, but maybe there's a certain maturity to it. And so to go full circle back to talking so much about Megalithic Symphony and that first record, this feels as exciting in a different way as the first record did, because I have no rules and I'm not with the label right now. So I'm releasing 2 totally different, insane projects. And I don't necessarily mean in a good way, but they're definitely insane. And so for any real diehard fans to kind of like group those, or lump these 2 records together will be a trippy experience that I hope people enjoy.
Awesome. Well, Aaron, thanks for carving out some time for us today. I really appreciate it. And again,
I appreciate you,
congratulations on all your success.
Thanks, brother.
Hey everybody, the song you're hearing right now is Jump, Sit, Stand, March from the new AWOLNATION album, The Phantom 5, which will be out on August 30th. I hope you all enjoyed this episode as much as I did. But don't go anywhere. We got lots more Krista Makes a Podcast coming right up after a few words from our sponsors.
Hi, this is Chad Nicefield.
And this is Justin Press.
We're the host of Making Waves, the Shiprock podcast, a part of the Sound Talent Media Podcast Network. We're inviting you to sail away with us on an epic journey in musical enlightenment. Every week, we bring you only the best artists in rock music and discuss everything from the cruise to the stage to the saga of being a professional recording artist. We'll have lots of special guests along the way, so tune in every week.
Your stateroom is available every Monday morning, so welcome aboard.
Hey friends, have you been loving Krista Makes a Podcast? Well, spread the love by leaving a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Don't hesitate to share what you enjoy about the show in an actual written review on Apple Podcasts. Not only does it help more people discover us, but we often read reviews in the wrap segment of the show. It's a quick, cost-free way to support us and takes just a minute of your time. Your reviews mean the world to us and help us keep the podcast thriving. Thank you for being a listener, and thank you for being a friend.
As we near the end of the show, here's a band you might not know.
Welcome to this week's Band You Might Not Know. If you'd like your band to be considered for Krista Makes a Podcast, email your best song via MP3 only and a short bio to bandyoumightnotknow@gmail.com. This week's featured artist is The Fan, a self-described nostalgia rock band noted in late 90s and early aughts pop rock aesthetics. You can find their music on all the streaming platforms. Here's a snippet of their song, Single for the Summer.
The past define. You make me feel what I have never felt. Let me to leave the lie I was meant to sell. What's in a dream? You make me never want to be single for the summer again. The summer again.
The Wrap with Chris and Chris.
So, Chris, that was a really awesome episode. And I got to say, Aaron seems like a really deep guy. I love how he talked about the decisions you make when you're younger and how you can sometimes regret them. But then if you take a step back, you have to realize that all the things that have happened wouldn't have happened if you had made different decisions. It's like a butterfly effect. In Aaron's instance here, maybe he wouldn't have got to the point of writing Sail without everything that happened in his past.
That is an amazing point. Yeah, I had actually thought about that. That one song he was talking about, he had mentioned that the label wanted to release a different song. Well, what if that song would have maybe not become a gigantic hit like Sail, but would have been enough to keep a career going for a little while? You're out, maybe you're making a little money, maybe you're just scraping by, but maybe he didn't get to that rock bottom and you know, have to lift himself up from that pit and write Sail. Maybe that never would have happened.
Exactly. I love how he said, we've heard a lot of people say this just in different ways, but he said some songs just don't fight back. And he tried to stay out of the way of it and kind of channel this song. And it sounds sometimes like a little woo-woo to say that kind of thing. But if you're a songwriter, you've probably experienced this at some point. It's absolutely true that some songs just happen and you just kind of just let them flow through you and let them happen.
Yeah, and I think that I had said to Aaron that most huge hits, the people we talk to on this show, it just happens quickly. Very rarely is a hit song something that's just labored over and, you know, it just kind of happens. And when I hear that, I get a huge smile on my face. When he was saying that, I'm just like, of course this happened quickly, you know?
Yeah. I also loved Chris. I was laughing over here when he said the misinterpreted lyric of My Own Sick Pride.
Yeah.
Like what people think, what you read and what people think it is over My Own Supply. He's like, that lyric's actually better. I feel like that has happened maybe once or twice on this show before. I can't remember with who, but they were like, well, the thing that people think I'm saying is actually better than what the actual lyric is. So I might just go with that. I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah. And let's talk about ADD for a second. If that lyric would come out today, I don't think it would have as much impact. To my knowledge, nobody had really been writing about ADD in a song up to 2010 when this track was recorded and released. And it's in the song 4 times. I could almost argue that's the song. That could be, it's the ADD song. As I told Aaron, there was probably people calling up radio stations saying, I don't know the name of it, but it's the ADD. And I was cautious about, I don't want to make someone feel like the words and emotions that they're conveying, the lyrics, aren't important, but and it was cool to have him agree with me. This song is so grandiose and so big and so epic. I argued that you could almost probably say anything in his verses, this song still would have been a hit.
Right. Yeah. It's a song that it's a whole experience. You really feel the musicality of it, I guess. I also, Chris, I think this is one of the most important things that someone can take away from this episode. And I think you called that in the moment too. He said, you don't have to be a master musician or some shredder to write a great song. You just got to put your heart into it, right? I mean, if you can open a session and you can do a little bit of whatever, even like you've said this before, Chris, D. Snyder, just singing the song, not playing an instrument, just having this idea and relating that to the musicians he works with, just put it out, put your art out there however you can.
I love it. And one last thing, let's talk about, here's a hardcore kid, okay? He loves Snapcase, and he was able to write and release a song like this. I think that's so cool.
Yeah, I also thought it was cool that he said that Rhythm Nation is punk rock. As a huge Janet fan, I loved the Janet shout out. So, Chris, I thought this episode was awesome.
It was awesome, and I love this song. Nothing at the time sounded like it at all, and to this day, this song stands on its own. Chris, let's talk about those 5-star Apple and Spotify reviews, if we can, please.
Yeah, if you enjoyed this episode or any of our hundreds of episodes before, if you can go to Apple or Spotify, leave us a 5-star review. We'd really appreciate it. It helps people find out about the show, and it helps us keep getting awesome guests. And we've had no lack of those in the past, but we want to keep it going. Hey, I want to read a quick review to you, Chris, that someone left for us. This is a really nice one. You know how we appreciate these reviews. This one's from John Zaremba, who called us essential listening and gave it 5 stars and said, for anyone who loves music and anyone interested in songcraft, Chris is a great host because he guides the show along and lets his guests speak without making it all about himself. Very entertaining and informative. I gotta agree with John Zaremba. You do a great job, Chris.
Well, thanks, John. And Chris, I appreciate that. Thanks for the reviews. Thanks to everybody who listens to Chris DeMakes a Podcast. Without you guys, we couldn't keep the lights on. Speaking of keeping the lights on, head over to ChrisDeMakes.com. You can sign up for our supporting cast, which is our VIP program. I hate saying program, Chris. Anyways, you get
it's a program.
It's a program. You get 2 episodes. You get bonus episodes, 1 a week of the After Party, our other podcast, where you can hear Chris and I talk even more, all kinds of topics from music to sports to whatever's on our minds. It's good fun. ChrisDeMakes.com. And I want to thank this week's guest, Aaron Bruno, for sitting in with us. And we'll catch you next week. Hey there, Chris DeMakes a Podcast listeners. Ready to take your podcast experience to the next level? By signing up for the supporting cast at ChrisDeMakes.com, you not only ensure the continued production of our show, but also unlock exclusive perks. Subscribers receive a weekly bonus episode of our other podcast, The After Party, co-hosted by Chris Fafalius and myself. Many fans rave that The After Party is just as enjoyable as the main show. And with close to 200 music-centric episodes in the archive, there's a treasure trove of entertainment awaiting you. Thank you for tuning in and for your support in keeping the podcast going strong. Join us at ChrisDeMakes.com and let's keep the fun conversations going.
Ever wonder what a punch from Elton John feels like?
Or how you'd cope with having turned down the chance to be in Nirvana?
Or what signal Keith Richards gives when he wants you to get the hell out of his hotel room?
Fans of Too Much Effing Perspective don't have to wonder, because they've heard these exact stories and a jillion others on our podcast. I'm Alex Hoffman, former tour manager for Radiohead.
And I'm musician and comedy writer Alan Keller. On the TMEP show, we get guests like Nancy Wilson from Heart, Jeremiah Freites from the Lumineers, and Modern Family's Julie Bowen to tell us things they may have only shared with their therapist, clergy, or a TMZ stringer.
So join us on Too Much Effing Perspective. That's EFFING Perspective. The only podcast you crank up to 11.
Hey, this is Steve Choi, host of the Musicians Guild podcast, part of the Sound Talent Media podcast network. Within the four walls of the Musicians Guild, we'll be discussing the habits, idiosyncrasies, experiences, and general psychology of my friends and peers, all involved with music in various capacities. Listen and subscribe at soundtalentmedia.com.